You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
Yeah, you're wrong. Chris, you watch weird shit. Chris, you laugh at terrible situations. Why do you like it when people cry? Yep. It's a big fuck you Morrison's episode. Yep. That's why Cap's out here.
He just had enough of this shit.
Yeah, he just had enough of this shit, man. Chris is weird, man. I'm just gonna play guitar.
Oh, I thought you were still blaming me.
Yeah, I'm still blaming you.
Okay. Well, then welcome to this week's edition of the Couch Potatoes, where there is all thunder and no love at this table.
All thunder, no love.
I'm Alex.
This is Morrison filling for Cap. Cap has abandoned us, which is fun.
And peel behind the curtain, we were talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you mentioned what movie?
Secret of the Ooze.
Yeah, you'd said Secret of the Ooze, and then immediately said, Ninja Turtles were awesome. As I was still working, my brain was still working on Secret of the Ooze, and I just went, ew, like that, which then led into, what you have now heard is apparently me shitting all over Chris and his opinions of what is good.
Yep. No, where I'll have my own goddamn show with hookers and blackjack.
And you won't know because you can't see them, bitches.
Yep. They'll have some weird thing to say about pimping.
Now, Chris.
$5 is $5. I don't drive a car. Why the fuck I need gas money?
Oh, God damn it. No, actually, I feel like we might have a little bit of differing opinions on this episode, though, because today we're going to be talking about, as you see in the title, Thor, Love and Thunder, the latest offering from the Disney Marvel movie making machine. Yep. And let's go how we've done lately. Overall thoughts, man. Walking out of the theater, did you feel satisfied? A+, thumbs up, thumbs down? How we feel?
Well, considered I burned one before I went.
Oh, no shit?
Yeah, so
nice.
Dude, I woke up at 1. I saw the thing starts at 1:30, so I just took a shower, walked out the door, and just hit something real quick.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, I'm good. That's why I ordered like $20 worth of Bojangles after I left. But, fucking 9 out of 10, man. I really enjoyed this movie. It wasn't Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack was solid. The story is solid. It does have a campy vibe for like it's a family movie. But, considering where I watched it, with the nice heated seats, legs kicked up, medium popcorn.
Oh,
I'm doing fine.
See, we wound up going to the same theater, just different days. I clicked my seat warmer by accident.
Oh, yeah. I was hot as fuck.
And I was just like, oh, my God. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. But I about fell asleep at one point, but the pacing kept me awake because the pacing is very fast in this movie. We'll get to that part. Mm-hmm. But no, man, it's a solid movie. Like there's no negative opinion really I have of it. There are some thoughts I have, but it's not in a negative light. Okay. But like overall, fantastic movie.
Okay. Honestly, my out of 10, I'd have to give it maybe closer to a 7. I wasn't really blown away by this movie, mainly because I think this is the first time I've gone into a Marvel movie with my expectations at a certain level, and they weren't met. Yeah. And I think that's part of the reason I kind of walked away from it a little disappointed.
Is it because Guns N' Roses did the soundtrack? They have like 4 Guns N' Roses songs in that movie.
Look, man.
They had November Rain. I was just like, nah, that don't fit.
Oh, you didn't think that fit?
No, Rainbow in the Dark did.
Oh yeah, that
fucking
was
Dio
awesome.
At the end. Yes. I was like jamming, listening to that shit. I'm just like, and they cut it short. I'm like, get fucked. Like, I know it's the credits, but they cut it short during the credits. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit, man. That's Ronnie James Dio. How fucking dare you?
That's the one time to let it ride is the credits.
You know who wouldn't have stood for that shit? Eddie Munson.
He would have stood up. No, fuck this.
And it just like as soon as they started playing Rainbow in the Dark, I'm like, no. Like I didn't even think of that song. Like them coming on, and I was just like, I was explaining Dio to a bunch of kids in West Virginia the weekend before I went here, and I'm just like, I'm being watched. I'm being watched. I don't like it.
Well, we already knew your phone was watching you. Now Hollywood is watching you.
Oh, dude, as soon as we talked about HelloFresh and like food service, it shows up on my Facebook.
Telling you, those androids are fucky, man.
Oh yeah, it's just the androids. Yeah, it's not like Verizon. it's like butt fucking you to death with the goddamn information ads.
But yeah, so it's like I kind of went into it with a certain expectation, and maybe part of that expectation of it was to be a little longer. Mm-hmm. It was only 120 minutes.
No, 2 hours.
Yeah, like it was a tight like hour 45.
I think what makes it feel short is because of the constant pacing of go here, go here, go here, go here. Because like just by like memory alone, they go to like 10 locations.
Oh yeah,
in a very quick 10. Mm-hmm. You know, because like going into the movie, it's Korg, you know, telling the story to the kids of New Asgard. He's like, let me tell you about the great space Viking, Thor Odinson. And it's just him, you know, getting back in shape, which is the montage scene we all love, the Kenny Loggins, Eye of the Tiger, all that bullshit. And then
meets up with the Guardians.
Yes, he's been hanging out with the Guardians. And what I like about the Guardians are they don't compare as a team to him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the Guardians are struggling.
Yeah.
Like, and I get that. And every time I see them, I'm just like, they are a cool ragtag bunch, but it reminds me of like the first Avengers movie. It's just like, okay, they can do this, this, and this. Okay. They struggled.
Thor, but I like how they use Thor as their secret weapon.
Yeah. And he's not even a secret. He's just standing there. He's basically a nuclear weapon just standing there. And like, oh, you guys, you know, we could have just solved this problem in 2 seconds. I could have just flown, ripped that owl man's head off. Because that's what they're fighting. They're fighting basically owl people. Yep. The blue people are fighting the owl people. And I love that because it's a Dungeons and Dragons thing. But like, there's a group of owl people. But they had like feral chickens almost. And hey, Thor, we could really use your help. And he's like, dude, I'm trying to vibe up here, man. I'm just trying. He put his fucking tree in the ground, his Stormbreaker's in the ground, and he's just sitting there in the fucking dashiki, chilling, hair up in a bun like a pussy. And he's just like, I'm trying to meditate, man. Hey, man, I got the 8-pack, the God 8-pack again, man. I'm rocking it. And I'm just like, go out there and kick some ass, man.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. And then he shows up like a lead guitarist for like a Nordic band, a Nordic metal band.
Yes.
And like he takes off the robe and they're all fucking yoked.
Yep.
And there's like, hell yeah. And he gives it like a shitty speech. And like you could tell like it's so fucking campy and so fucking 80s. And the Guardians are down for it.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt's like, fuck yeah.
Well, see, he's speaking in Chris's actual time frame. He's just like, yes, this dude gets it.
Yeah. And he one-man armies that shit.
Yeah.
Because even Drax is like, puts the gun down, like, oh, fuck, I'm just going to sit down.
Yep.
Did you notice that when he pulled Stormbreaker up, it had a bunch of roots?
Yes, it did.
I'm just like, that's the problem with the Groot arm. Like, if he plants it there, it's just going to be a giant tree one day with an axe sticking out of it.
I am Groot.
And
to me, all of that fast pacing worked. And one of my favorite things to do is, even if it's a property I really love, I love falling into the nerd hate YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Of like just the people that just viscerally hate any new Star Wars or Marvel thing that comes out. It's so funny listening to those people talk, and so many folks were complaining about like, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, arguably the coolest part of this movie, were barely in it. Look,
because it's not a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
1, yes. 2, when I didn't go into it expecting a Guardians of the Galaxy Thor team up movie. Like Ragnarok was kind of like a Hulk Thor team up movie. I was expecting them to be in the movie for a short time, and the amount of time they were on and the way they parted, you know, funny speech aside, but even the way they parted and how short amount of time they were in the movie, I look at each of these Marvel movies as like a series of maybe 3 or 4 comic books, where it's like at the end of each, you know, at the end of each act is kind of like at the end of each comic. You know, if we get 3 acts in a movie, that's roughly 3 or 4 comic books. Yeah. So I see that as like, you picked up the next Thor issue of an ongoing series, and you turn to page 1, and he's just hanging out with the Guardians for like the first maybe 6 pages. like that. And then they're like, yo, we got to go run off again. You know, Thor, go do your shit. And then by the end of that issue is when you see Gore, and you're just like, oh shit, no wonder Thor needed to run off. He's got to deal with some bad shit. It's no different than like pick up a Spider-Man comic and it's like he's hanging out with the Fantastic Four, you know, for the first handful of pages, and all of a sudden big explosion off in the distance, and you know, Human Torch is like, fuck that, I'm done for the day, and Spider-Man's like, never mind, fuck you.
I remember, like,
and he's off.
There was one comic book I read, it was a Spider-Man comic. Spider-Man had saved like a boatload of people, but one person had died.
Right.
He felt like he failed. And J. Jonah Jameson is doing his whole like newspaper bullshit.
Yeah.
Spider-Man couldn't be bothered to save this one person, and it's just like he saved like 50 fucking people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the very comic, the last fucking panel is a cop that's dead on the ground and a guy grabbing a badge, smoking a cigarette, and he says, well, that's too bad. And it's Chameleon. And I'm just like, that is how you end a fucking comic book. And I'm just like, that's like if I was to write this, like if you was to do like talking about comic, it would be him helping the Guardians out that whole time, and at the very end it's Sif at begging for fucking help at the very last panel.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool, because he pretty much just lays out everything in that first act. I was like, yeah, I killed all these motherfuckers. What do you mean your gods are dead? Get fucked. Yeah. But in the beginning of this movie, we see Christian Bale's character Gore.
Highlight of the movie, Christian Bale knocked that out of the park. Honestly, I got a little bit of like the Joker vibe, slightly, which makes me wonder, like, you know, if he kind of even unintentionally pulled from seeing I forget his name immediately. Heath Ledger's Joker, working with him so much.
I got a Justification vibe from him, more of like a Killmonger, or any other villain like Ultron. You know, someone who had a justification in what they were doing.
Yeah.
They went about it in a terrible way, but still, you know, like a Scarlet Witch type thing, you know.
Because the very, very opening of the movie, before we get even our montage and stuff, is you see Gore with his daughter kind of going through trials and tribulations.
And she starves to death.
Yep, starves to death, didn't have water. She perishes in his arms.
And he buries her, which you know, it's a weird thing about Gore's character compared to like the comics, because Gore's character is very more malicious. He's not likable in a lot of ways. He has justification, just the same justification, same plot, same everything, but he kills Thor like 40 fucking times in that storyline. But and this one, it's heart-wrenching, because as soon as she dies and as soon as he's done burying her, he sees an oasis.
Yep.
And we see his god, the one he's been worshiping.
And the reason why he was going through all that, basically his daughter died in that god's name because they were just so dedicated to his teachings.
Yeah. And they go to this oasis, and we see the Necron, which is the holder of the Necron sword. He's lying dead on the ground. This god somehow defeated him, and they're celebrating.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Let's leave that as it is. Not looking at it from the outside, but from the inside. It's no further from the Avengers eating falafel. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Or shawarma, whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's a very unique looking god. I will say that. He's a sun god, which we've seen in like stories and such like that. But he's an alien god too. So, because Gore is not of Earth. So he's from some other alien planet. But out the gate, the god looks at this guy and is just like, I'll get more worshipers, you piece of shit.
Yeah. He doesn't give a shit.
I don't give a fuck. You are made to suffer, which is a very good indictment on what religion really is in the broad spectrum, and not in a very acute one on just one. Yeah. But they're laughing at him because they're all powerful and stuff like that, which goes back to the way the Thor movie 1 did. The first Thor movie is, we're gods among men. We don't give a fuck about this place. Because when Thor goes to Midgard, he goes right after his hammer and thinks he's fucking invincible and gets shot in the back. Yeah.
Well, it's because he was also granted not worthy by Odin anymore.
But like he doesn't fully understand, because gods don't have a understanding.
Exactly.
And so he goes back to Earth. Or not, like Gore confronts him. Yes. And the whole, I think what it was,
we got to shift back movies. You were in a first movie.
But going back to Gore, it seemed like the sword was calling him.
Yes, and that was, and again, this is the amount of fast pacing that I was still okay with. I knew they had to rush his origin.
Yeah.
Did this feel rushed? Absolutely, because it was like boom, daughter dies, boom, Oasis, boom, Necrosword, boom, and then what we're leading to is get them with it. So it's that was very fast, but it felt like it was needed just to get the story off the ground.
He's a very big villain.
Yes.
He's a very big villain that the thing Marvel does is kill him off, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Because we still have, let's talk about, the pantheon of villains. Killmonger could still be alive. Ultron could still be alive.
Yeah.
Some of these characters are still kicking.
These Red Skull is alive.
Yeah, technically, he's probably just chilling on a mountain, but,
yeah.
But
he is there.
The last thing you probably saw is just Steve Rogers flipping him a pebble, being like, "Good luck, motherfucker."
I know. It's like I would love to see that time heist movie with
the time heist. Oh, I'd love to see time heist, the reverse time heist
with
Chris Evans.
Yes, running through time in the last episodes because it didn't seem like they briefed him on oh, hey, by the way, heads up.
Yeah. The Hulk being like, I met a wizard and she'll suck your soul out of your body. So just be very careful on how you approach this bitch.
Yeah.
And
Hawkeye being and bro, look, I know you've worked past a lot of shit.
Yeah.
But you might want to center your mind a little bit when you return the Soul Stone.
There may or may not be a Nazi at the end of the universe.
Just a heads up.
Yeah. So Gore cuts this motherfucker down very quickly, which I thought was unique because this god is very arrogant.
Yes.
He's all powerful. He's about 20 feet fucking tall.
Yeah.
And he grabs Gore by the neck and he starts getting bigger and bigger, and you can see that sword rise up, and I'm just like, this is a great villain.
Yeah.
Out the gate. Because he's not there to be a villain. He was
just extremely angry, feeling vengeful, and is it a convenience? Yes.
He's scorned.
Yes.
That's all it is.
Well, the convenience being that the Necrosword was so close by as he was feeling so much anger and rage and spite and everything else that the sword called to him because of how angry he was.
So the Necrosword, the history of that real quick, is actually it comes from the planet where Venom's from.
Yes.
It's made by those creatures, and it has a very unique purpose.
No.
And it's the negative effect. Which... watching that god die and all the other ones just come in like, fuck this noise, I'm out.
Yeah, and the flower ladies were just like, poof.
Yeah, because they get the fuck out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Because they might get them down too. Fuck. Goddamn Necrosword weed whacker over here. It's just,
and then that's what leads directly into our montage scene. And what ends our montage scene...
Sweet Child of Mine's playing in the background.
Oh, yeah, just rocking it out. And what ends our montage, fun Guardians of the Galaxy moment is they finally get back to the Benatar, and they see all these distress signals popping up all over, the Earth, and then all over the universe, rather.
And I like how they're just picking and choosing. It's like, oh, this one's a distress signal. Oh, this one's a ransom.
Yeah.
And then Thor sees Sif, and we haven't seen Sif since Loki.
Yeah.
And technically, we haven't seen Sif since probably Thor 2.
Because in Loki, it was just a flashback over and over.
Which is a real myth. Do you remember what happened with Sif in that story? Loki cuts her hair, and she gets pissed off. That's an actual mythological story.
Yes.
In the Thor legend, in mythology, is Loki cuts her hair and she kills him 40 times in a row.
They even kind of lean into the whole, well, they hadn't done the Loki had sex with a horse thing, but they did kind of allude to the gods don't see gender because you saw Thor making out with that half horse lady.
Yeah.
In that montage scene.
Oh, yeah, in the montage scene, he hangs out with a fucking space pirate. It is making out with her. He's hooking up all over the fucking galaxy because he's probably just thinking, I got to get rid of Jane Foster out of my motherfucking brain.
Well, he's also probably just blasting Guns N' Roses, and he's just got a raging heart on the entire time. He's just it's time to procreate.
Yeah. so he decides to go after Lady Sif. Him and Korg take off, and then we see the aliens. They're like, "Hey, we have a gift for you." These fucking goats who scream constantly, and these goats in mythology are real. They're they're chariot runners. mythology. So,
but they added the meme of the screaming goat because it's the exact. Well, it's the exact audio of that meme of that.
Yeah. And like the first time I spoke to you about it is in the show MODOK on Hulu.
Yes.
He invades Asgard and he has a goat powered tank, and on each side is a goat that's just screaming like a motherfucker. Oh God.
No, so it's like, but here's the thing. So that was the first time in the movie I went, oh, I see what they're doing. This is the first Marvel movie, in my opinion, for a long time that I felt was directed toward like an 8 to 14-year-old audience.
Yeah.
Like, to me, this was like the first one that it was, and it's not a negative. This is coming from the guys that did an hour-and-a-half long podcast on Pixar and, Disney and DreamWorks. So in no way, shape, or form am I saying a movie directed toward kids is a negative. I just wasn't expecting it to be such a directed toward kid movie going into it. And at that point, with the screaming goats, I went, now I have my expectations. That was the moment that I was just like, okay, I know what they're doing. Yeah. All right, now I get it.
Yeah, and so they get him on the...
And because of that, sorry not to interrupt, but because of that, once at that point my expectations were set, I giggled like a motherfucker every time those goats came on screen.
Oh, yeah.
that was the peekaboo joke that my fucking infantile brain did not get tired of.
Yeah. And so they get the goats on the Milano. They decide to, head over to the other planet, the winter planet.
Yes.
Location number 3. Mm-hmm. And they get out, and I like Korg. Taika Waititi plays like 3 different people in this movie.
Uh-huh.
And he's just like, oh man, who's that? He's like, it's a god. It's a giant beast that's laying on the ground, and that's one of the gods. He's like, he's one of the nicest guys you ever meet. And that's actually from the comics itself. That's actually a steal from the comics.
Yes, I've seen the side-by-side photo of it. It's amazing.
And Sif had lost her arm in battle because Sif is not a god. Sif is one of many Asgardians, but she's a guard of the Asgardians.
But she wants to get into Valhalla.
Yeah, and I love Thor's like, well, you just got wounded. You wouldn't really go.
But I have to die. No, he's like, I want to save you. She's like, no, I want to die in battle because then I'll be sent to Valhalla. He's like,
you're not gonna die.
But the battle's already over. And you're alive.
Yeah, it's like
if you die now, you're not going to get into Valhalla.
That goes to the idiocy of Asgardians, too. It's just like, oh my God, these people are fucking idiots.
Yeah,
like,
they'd rather just sit there and die. And the idea of getting into Valhalla, and he's just like, no, that's not how that works. You're just going to have like a painful, long death. And she's like, what? Shit.
That whole conversation reminds me of like a D20 episode. It's just like, that's not how that works. You did not roll high enough.
What?
Fuck.
What? No.
But so he gets her on the ship, and they get her back to Asgard.
Yeah.
And we find out that Asgard, so during this moment, Jane Foster.
Yes.
And this is what I had a problem with. They were very quick about doing this.
Again, everything moves at a breakneck pace.
So we find out she has stage 4 cancer of some kind. They're not really specific. You assume it's lung cancer because she's tired all the time.
Yeah. Well, they outright say it because when
Kat Dennings shows up.
Yeah, when she shows up,
stage 4.
And I'm just like, we could have this is actually why I got rated a little lower. It felt like we couldn't go more than 3 minutes without someone trying to make a joke.
Well, yeah, because it's a Thor movie.
Yeah.
They've gone from serious to hilarious.
Yeah, but it's like there were some genuinely funny moments in that movie, and I feel like they would have been funnier if we hadn't have been smacked across the face with like 2 or 3 half-ass jokes in between the really funny moments.
So she's at a loss, right?
Yeah.
She's at stage 4. We get Kat Dennings' cameo. We also get a Skarsgård cameo.
Yes.
The doc, he's like, I've looked at this every fucking which way.
Everything you've done is not working.
Yeah, it's not working. And this kind of is a slap in the face to all these side characters, because like in Infinity War, they invented immortality by accident.
Yeah.
At no point could you be like, hey, Bruce, I got some problems. I know you're basically a walking, talking form of cancer. Can you give some dude's old girlfriend a chance? can you do me a solid? Can you call Miss Marvel and see if she has some form of cure for cancer across the universe somewhere?
But does he know any of those people?
Yeah, they speak about them constantly in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Because they all know each other.
Yeah.
Because like they talk about the Hulk and Thor have kind of like a back and forth going about, hey, where's your girlfriend's at? Oh, Betty, she left.
Yeah.
And then Jane Foster, he's like, Jane Foster, oh, she's a professor, blah, 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 blah. We're great. It's like, no, you guys broke up. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they're part of the canon, the cast canon. And so she decides to give this side-eyed look to magic, which I think is hilarious because she's all science and no magic, even though she's seen magic in person.
Well, it's the same concept with Captain America. Kind of not, they've never directly say it, but he kind of alludes to the fact he's a Christian of the, where he believes.
And he's still cool with everybody.
Yeah, but
still cool with
it's
everybody.
like he is in the same movie hanging out with Thor. Goes,
a god.
Yes, and goes, there's only one god, ma'am. It's just like, Steve, you're literally standing next to one.
And guess what? Probably while this is going on, or around the same time Miss Marvel's going on, and the Internals is going on, we actually have gods fighting on Earth.
Yeah.
We actually have other gods fighting in Egypt.
Yeah.
We actually have someone who figured out, hey, India's gods exist. And they have this thing where they could, travel across the universe with a bracelet.
Yeah.
It's fucking hilarious. The ending of Miss Marvel is hilarious because it's a nice fuck you to Miss Marvel at the end, the actual Miss Marvel.
But she runs out to New Asgard and decides that she's going to hang out with Thor's hammer, which in interviews they said it was because it was calling to her.
Yeah.
And that was the moment I also started going, this is moving a little too fast.
Well, we don't see her transformation. That's what.
But it was shot.
It was shot, and they don't show it.
No, they don't, because I know it was shot because again, this might have also been why I was a little in the idea knowing it was kind of directed toward kids, because the first little bit of leak footage I had seen of this movie was a stunt actress doing the transformation scene in midair in New Asgard. But her body contortions looked a little creepy, to be honest. And I'm sitting here going, I was like, ooh, this is going to be like a really cool, intense movie. We've got Gore the God Butcher. And this scene already looks a little bit creepy with just the way the body's contorting, with the stunt actress. So, so they shot the whole transformation scene, but you kind of know it's coming.
Yeah.
That's the moment. But it again, with things moving so fast, while you're sitting here, I think part of the reason it's moving so fast is so that you don't think about it in the moment, because then you start wondering, well, why is the hammer calling to her? They answer it later in the movie, but it's like before you can even have a chance to think, wait, why would the hammer be calling to her? Why is she supposedly worthy all of a sudden? Before you even have a chance to think about that, Thor's running off to go fight in the battle.
Yeah. And this is kind of like a timeline issue I had with the movie. So she shows up at Asgard, gets the fucking hammer. And she's been there for a while. We find out that she's actually been there for a while.
Yes.
You could argue the pretense that it happened while Thor decided to go after Sif. So let's say an average of a week.
Yeah.
She's already hanging out with Valkyrie, which I love that because Valkyrie has no friends.
Yeah.
All her friends are gone. The only one that's probably there is Squib.
Yeah.
The fucking cricket guy.
Yeah. Hey, could you stop? I'm trying to make a speech.
And he's like detailing the battle.
Yes.
Because he's a scribe.
Yep.
But I love the fact that in this thing, she's been exposed to superheroes. Now she is one. And she has no idea how to be one. Like, because she's been around Thor, the oddest superhero of all time, who's actually an immortal god who's just been bebopping around humans in iron suits and steroids. And like, that's all he is.
Yeah.
He's literally a god among men. And she's like, I need to act like an ultra manly asshole the whole time.
Yes.
Because I need a saying. I need to have a cool ass saying. And I'm just like, that's how they're making fun of fans when they're doing that, because that's what fans would do. Some kick ass saying with superpowers. And I just love her, like, it's hammer time, blah, 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 blah. Or just, break the thunder.
But the reveal scene was cool because he was just like, who's the new guy? And even Valkyrie was like, oh, you're going to love him still just kind of keeping it up for Thor's sake. We're sitting here going, it's like, oh, that's.
Well, we find out so Thor arrives on Earth, and we find out that Valkyrie has basically run a new Asgard.
Yeah,
and
she's all suit and tie. And
she
shit.
fucking hates it. She's carrying a fucking dagger. And she's spinning that shit during a conference meeting.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, yeah, that's a psycho. You don't want that person in charge.
I was gonna say that's Chris as a CEO.
Yeah. Are you done? Do people have food and water? All right. Cool. Break. Everybody go to lunch. We'll meet tomorrow before lunch. Or maybe after lunch. Whatever the fuck I'm doing. Did you notice, like, all right, so the hammer's sitting there. Someone had to pick it up.
No. That was actually
a section of the ground where it landed.
Yes, that is actually that's at the exact spot when Hela broke it after Odin died.
Okay.
So that's the cliff side. That genuinely is, because I'm sitting here, I thought about that too.
That's not what bothered me. That's not what bothered me. The bothered me was a group of people just looked at the hammer and walked away, and now there's a small person.
Yes, in a hoodie and sunglasses.
Looking like the Unabomber.
Yes.
Looking at Mjolnir, and there's guards. And they're like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And they see the hammer move. Mm-hmm. Hey, what the fuck are you doing with our number one attraction?
Yeah.
It's not Matt Damon. Matt Damon. It's not Loki, Matt Damon.
I still think that's the best nod to Kevin Smith ever.
Oh fuck yeah.
That's still just the best.
It's the biggest fuck you to fucking the series of Loki. And they threw in Melissa McCarthy
and her Hela
and her husband on that. I just love that shit. But so he arrives in Asgard with Sif, and so they're patching her up. So he goes to the infirmary because it's a country now, which is very cool. Mm-hmm. They're very casual about the whole, hey, this is a country now. Back the fuck up. We have gods. Yeah. And we find out that Heimdall has a son. We find out the Asgardians are still kicking ass. They basically turned their whole country into Hawaii, a giant tourist attraction. They took Asgard technology, made it into tourist boats.
Yes.
It kind of becomes a Viking cruise line.
Yeah, there was infinity scoops.
Yes, infinity scoops. And that was part of the whole montage of Valkyrie just I fucking hate this place.
I hate this place.
This commercial bullshit. But he arrives, and then
the reveal was cool because
shadow creatures and everything.
Well, no, I was gonna say the reveal of Mighty Thor, I guess, is what she said at the end. Yeah, the Jane Foster Thor. Because when she throws the hammer,
it breaks.
Yes, I thought that was such a cool mechanic.
Yeah. And so Gore's already there. Mm-hmm. We don't really know his motive other than to kill Thor.
Yeah.
And that's not it. No, we find out later on that's not it. But he decides to snatch children, kind of like a Pied Piper type character. And we get the giant battle in Asgard, which, if you think about it, these are Asgardians. A lot of them were probably warriors, so a lot of them were probably holding their fucking own. If you notice, in the background, they had swords and shit, but Asgardian swords. So these guys knew how to hold their own.
Right.
A couple of those people were Korg and Squid, people who were on Battle World. Basically, these are people who fought for their lives. They don't give a fuck about killing some sentient being with 30 fucking arms. And they were holding their own.
Oh, yeah.
Even without Thor and Thor 2 Electric Boogaloo, they weren't they weren't too far off.
No, they weren't.
It was the whole snatching the kids up, which I will say, deep fucking sleepers. Did you notice they were deep fucking sleeping kids? It's this kid is there's a Gorgon being murdered out front of your window, and you're just what the fuck? What the fuck?
Well, I mean, they're also Asgardian kids, so I mean...
they sleep through 9/11. Yeah, whatever.
Oh.
That's what I originally rated this movie, a 9 out of 11.
God damn it.
But I wasn't allowed to say that in Discord.
But you'll say it on the podcast.
Listeners. Get them listeners. But going into the whole battle scene, with the reveal of Jane Foster, it was very cool. And I love
Jane,
but not just that. I love that he treats Mjolnir and Stormbreaker like dogs.
Yeah,
he talks to because if you another thing I noticed was, you remember the whole the Disney in between storylines with Thor and his assistant.
Oh, yeah,
And the
yeah.
guy, Daryl.
Yeah, he
Daryl's
was-
basically the vice president of fucking Asgard.
Yeah, Daryl was. I think he was leading the tour. Also,
yeah, he's part of Asgard, which I think is hilarious because he ruined Daryl's life.
Well, and what was also cool, they still hadn't come out and said it, but headcanon, you can make anything true. They initially said those Thor shorts weren't canon. They were like, these are just fun little things we're just doing in between. Well, with him now working in New Asgard, fuck it, those shorts are canon.
Yeah.
I just like the implication of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right after all that, though, Axel, as he's now named,
Yes.
radios into Thor with right up there with Doctor Strange's third eye is some of the worst CGI I've seen in a minute.
Yeah, I could tell that was kind of like a last minute thing, probably.
Yeah.
But it kind of gave me a kind of old school, like adventure movies kind of thing.
I did too. And like what I was saying in my head to justify it in the moment is he's a kid. He hadn't quite gotten it figured out yet.
Yeah.
But at the same
that's,
time, it
Heimdall's
still
son.
just looked so bad. Yeah, it was Heimdall's son, which I thought was such a cool addition. I liked him a lot.
So, and I liked how that was a thing in like the Thor 1 and 2. Heimdall! And he's like, zip, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
That was the old way of doing things.
So at that point, Thor decides he's going to form up an army of gods.
He has to, yeah.
Yes. So they travel to
Omnipotent City.
Yes, the omnipotent city. Which I was sitting here going, I was like, are they going to make the omnipotency joke?
Yeah.
But they never did.
And we get to see
A
the
lot
golden
of gods.
Yeah, with the Golden City. The
Yes.
Golden City of all the gods, which is actually a pretty cool reference from the old comics back when Jack Kirby was drawing it, because he did the whole old gods and stuff like that because he went to DC and did the new God storyline. But yeah, we see just going down a list of the ones I can like say. We see the Golden Dragon.
Yes.
We see the samurai god from Japan. We see a Mongol god. We see Quetzalcoatl, which is the Aztec god. We see the god of dumplings.
Bow.
Bow. Bow. Motherfucker, what do you do? What the fuck do
He's
you
the
do?
god of dumplings.
Is there dumpling people?
Maybe.
Are they scrumptious? Like,
Probably.
we see the god of dwarves, which is 2 feet in a head.
Yes.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Wasn't that actor in Lord of the Rings?
I can't remember, but like he's that's what they're referencing is Lord of the Rings, because like that's the god for them. And then we see a handful of others. We see the Egyptian gods. We see Ra and stuff like that. It's like, okay, they're still kicking about. They're not. Their analogs have died, but
Yes.
avatars or whatever.
Right.
But
no, another little hidden one that I didn't catch on the first viewing, mainly because I'm just taking everything in. But I think it was New Rockstars that pointed out when they're walking through and trying to, because they already got their cloaks and they're all hidden and everything. As they're kind of walking through, sneaking into the main hall, it's mentioned that, that's the god of carpentry.
yeah.
And it was just like, oh shit. They just canonized Jesus in the MCU.
Yeah. That's that one god.
Yeah. Well,
for
it's
Steve
just,
Rogers.
Well, I just find it so funny that just because they've always, again, kind of strayed away, they'll mention the idea of gods, a heaven and a hell, but they've always strayed away from making any reference to the Christian God.
Yeah.
So for the fact that this was a little bit of an on the nose, the god of carpentry, wink, wink, it's like, that's.
And I love Valkyrie's like, hey, I got these robes from some elemental gods. He's like, oh, where are they? Don't worry about it.
They were like gods of emotion or something like that.
Elemental gods, yeah. He's like, just shut the fuck up and put them on. And I like how Korg's excited. He's like, because his god's there.
Yes.
And it's voiced by Taika Waititi.
Yep.
And he's got this beard and shit. It's fucking hilarious. But we see Russell Crowe as
Zeus.
the oldest. And they mention him as the oldest god, which is canonically untrue because Egypt became before Greece. But I'll let it go. I'll fucking let it go. It's comics. I don't give a shit. And he's a dick.
Yes.
Which is Zeus. He's a dick. And so he's got this cool platform he's rocking, and you see probably like Aphrodite, Athena, Hera. You see Apollo just chilling on the side, like, what up? And and I love the fact that he's posturous, like, check this shit out, motherfuckers. And all I could think of was Chris Hemsworth can use Thor's hammer. Can you imagine if he was there and grabbed that lightning bolt as a man? Could you imagine how batshit insane? It's like he could kill Zeus every fucking day, but if a man went to Omnipotent City and just like grabbed the greatest weapon and looked him in the face and was like, fuck you. I'm Captain fucking America, bro. The god of kick-assness. Check out my ass.
America's ass.
But
you can kiss it.
So he's doing all this jumping around bullshit.
Yeah.
And he takes
showboating like a motherfucker.
And he takes offense to Thor and Valkyrie and them just bullshitting.
Yeah.
And I love Valkyrie's like, all right, you take the left, I'll take the right, I'll take the top. What on my signal? She's like, what's the signal? When I fucking say go.
Yeah.
All right, that's my fucking signal.
And those were those genuinely funny moments I liked.
But even back before they left Asgard, the funny moment of her breaking that fucking sink. And Valkyrie, you all right? Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
He's like, are you breaking a weapon? She's like, shink. And pulls out a big ass sword, and Shane's like, fuck yeah. And then she pulls out those little knives. She's like, fuck yeah. He's got shivs. But so they're in Omnipotent City, like I said. And so he gets Thor to come down there. Yeah. He doesn't know who Thor is. And the fact that Thor is like, excuse me, let me get through. And like shimmying between gods in a stadium of gods. I'm just like, just fly the fuck down there, man. He's going to know it's you. Because you have to tell him who
he
you
hadn't
are.
been flicked yet.
Yeah. So it's a one-on-one against Zeus and Thor, the god of thunder, and Zeus, the god of gods in the Greek mythology, and the god of thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
You know. And I do like the bolt. They kept it cartoony enough.
Yes.
But still, it breaks apart. It does all this cool shit.
Yep.
And he tethers them. He does the flick. And I love the other goddesses are just done.
Yeah, they were just like,
and faint
yes.
to like this Greek. This is basically a Norseman god.
Yes,
and like
so it's like he's packing, and the women were not expecting.
But like
it.
he's so in shape, and Russell Crowe's like just dumpy.
Yeah, and they're just like, oh, that still exists.
That's a god. That's what gods are supposed to look like.
He is the god of thunder.
And you see Dionysus on the side, like fuck yeah, bro, the god of drinking and good times.
Yep.
And you see like some of the other goddesses like in the thing, like god damn, like
I know.
Who the fuck and he's got this bat tattoo, which has like a little scroll.
R.I.P. Loki.
R.I.P. Loki. It's got his fucking helmet on there. It's got a little scroll of dead people like Odin, Freya, all these other ones, Hela, and then I thought that was just cool as shit. So,
yeah.
And then the battle ensues, and like Valkyrie just hops, and like I love Korg and Jane Foster. Like, is that a go?
Yeah, I guess they're like,
didn't
that's the go. He didn't say go.
And now we get like, because Thor is powerful enough to rip the chains of Olympus pretty much. That's some Kratos shit.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, all right.
That's what they were doing. They were doing the Kratos from God of War, and he's just like beating people to death. And I just like how they turned to gold, like gold blood.
Gold blood, yes. Well, it's a very creative way to get away with
not having a blood-soaked Thor.
Kind of having like a Tarantino-esque fight scene with, blood spurting everywhere, very cartoon-like. But it's like, if you can't do that, all right, just be gold.
Yeah.
It's like even green would still be a little like, oof, this is a little intense. But the gold with the gold background just made it look really visual and just very entertaining.
They're like the faceless guards, so you don't really give a shit about them.
Yeah. They did it really well.
Valkyrie and everybody holding their own until Zeus throws the bolt and it hits Korg. And at that moment, I'm just like, they killed Taika Waititi.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's ballsy of that motherfucker to do that. Mm-hmm. And like, we find out, oh no, like, his face still exists.
Yes, apparently, like as long as the mouth of a Cronin exists, they don't die.
And hey, buddy, I'm down here.
Yeah,
hey, I'm right here, bud. Hey, and, like the New Zealand accent really makes it because it just sounds like Reese Meyer or was it Stephen Reese? Like,
yes,
Reese Davies. That's what it was. Reese Davies. He plays a fucking hilarious New Zealand comic, but he has that same voice, that same like crone about it. It's just like, oh my god, that's hilarious. And so Valkyrie picks his head up, puts it back. He's like, "Watch your 10," and like she zips around. He's like 10:45, zip zip. He's like 8:49, pop pop pop. That's not how that works. Like it's just 8, 10, 9. Like he's like giving like actual like seconds and minutes.
Yes.
And so they're holding their own. Jane Foster does the breakaway hammer move, which is still cool as shit. And like it coming back together, that tink 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 is a cool fucking sound.
Oh, not only, but it's so satisfying because all the pieces fall right into a place. Yeah, and it's like, I know that feeling of like, putting Legos together and like all the pieces. Fits. Yes, and when like the pieces just right and it's like a bigger piece and it's just like, oh, that's perfect.
I can't wait to blow up that one Lego cube.
Or like when you were in shop class and you were cutting wood and you made a cut that they just
it just dovetails together.
Yeah, and it's just like, ooh. It's like you just get that visually
Well,
of all
if you
those
notice,
little
it's
parts.
the same noise in Iron Man 3 where all this suit is putting together. Tick, 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 tick,
I
tick.
didn't make that. That's a good call. I like that.
So they, like the sound guy was just like, "Oh yeah, I was there. I got this. I got this." So, and Zeus is like, "Fuck this. I'm tired of this shit," and throws a bolt. Now this is a kind of a cool scene, because it reminds me of kind of Invincible, where you think Invincible's going in for the hit, and the guy just grabs him, throws him to the ground. But no, he catches it.
Yep.
And then he ramps the fuck up with his like lightning and everything, and he straight through the fucking gut or chest.
Yeah.
Boom. And you're just like, did he just kill Zeus? Did he just kill a canon character that is everlasting? Like, DC don't even do that shit. Like, fuck.
But you see him like take a fucking Emperor Palpatine fall from that damn ledge.
Yeah, and he's like,
And you're kind of sitting, you're going like, well, if the gut shot didn't do it, that fall fucking
and so
did.
he calls Stormbreaker, which is the giant boat
Yes.
with the goats. Boom! And then it just...
No, it wasn't Matt. It's
And like, so it busts in. Valkyrie grabs the bolt. They get on the fucking sled and dip out. And we see two Celestials from the outside like, what the fuck?
great call.
Yeah. And I'm just like, can you imagine seeing that? Like, as a group of people?
Well, imagine Jane seeing that.
Yeah.
Just be like, the fuck?
But like, you know, she's seen him kill people, but like the gods themselves, you know, hey, a god butcher's coming. And I just like, Zeus acknowledges that. He's like, yeah, but you're going to spread a fucking panic.
Yeah.
All right. Chill the fuck out. But in the end, you killed a god, like in front of these other gods. And they're just like, he has the most powerful weapon that could kill all of us. And he did it with a flick of the wrist. Is
of the
Thor
wrist.
the strongest god now?
He's the strongest Avenger.
That's Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner showing up Omnipotent City? And you flicked that motherfucker? It's a horror show. All right.
Show you why.
Not even the boys could top that shit. Boom. Is it a tree fall?
That's not Groot.
That's not Groot. And I didn't like that part because I saw a couple of parts from the preview and they left out Groot. And I'm Groot. You know, and it's like, oh, you fucking asshole. Hey, you're being a fucking child.
Well, he's being a snotty teenager right now.
And so they take off, and we get... So Thor is actually every now and then showing up to these kids. And at one point, Thor's like, I'm right there. We got this. We're coming. I know where you're at. And he disappears. And then Christian Bale shows up. And he looks at these kids, and he's not showing any type of wanton murder toward these kids. They are scared of him, and rightfully they should be.
Yes, and he's trying to instill a lot of fear.
Yeah, and that's, you know, because he pulls darkness out and monsters appear. And he actually kills another god in front of them, which is a snake god.
Yeah.
And this is actually a Norse mythology kind of thing, but they don't directly say it. He likes having his head ripped off, which is actually in Norse mythology the Normangander, which is the snake eating its own tail. And he rips the head off. And he's like, oh, he loves it. Snap. And like he eventually it grows back, but that's the whole like another Norse mythology thing. They kind of like snuck in there without saying that's the end of Asgard. Because that's when the Normangander appears, is when Asgard dies.
Oh, okay.
Instead of Fenrir, it's a giant snake that eats its own tail. It's Norse mythology. I loved it growing up. It's hilarious.
No wonder you gave this a 9 out of 10.
I loved it because it's a fucking slap in the face to everybody. He's like a mythology major. Can you imagine like a cartoon just killed all your fucking favorite gods? Because I grew up reading mythology. Like Greek mythology. I love that shit. It's hilarious.
You love it. It's hilarious.
It is. It's just a guy fucking swans, and this is like, it's batshit insane.
And then when Thor finally snaps back, he looks over at Jane, and throughout the entire time,
They're not clicking.
but they're talking.
Yeah.
And it's also an interesting point because Jane's been like, earlier in the thing, she was like, how long has it been? 4 years? He's like, 8 years, 9 days, and 53 minutes. And
that's the snap.
Exactly. I thought that was an interesting little thing where Jane was like, oh, well, for her, it's really only been 4 years. She's still a lot more fresh on it. Where he's like, no.
It's been a very long time. It's almost a decade, bitch.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me, lady. And through one of those montages, you see like the process of their breakup. And because
it was very high. like a very high battle, and it's like this. This is before Thor 2.
Yes.
And so it's between Thor 1 and 2. Everything's going great. You could tell like Thor 2 happened and they're still together. Blah blah blah. This, and this, and you see that their jobs pulled them apart in a really fucked up way.
You see, starting around the time of like Age of Ultron is when he's just like, all right,
because he still has the hammer. Yeah. And what's funny is there's a scene where she's like on the couch and the hammer's on her side. I'm just like, she's stuck. She can't fucking move because the hammer's there.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God, that's hilarious.
I liked the Halloween scene with Hot Dog Thor.
Yes. Yeah.
Weak. I'm a hot dog.
And like she's laying on the bed, she's got her Halloween costume on. It's just a bunch of blood and guts hanging out.
Yeah. I think she had the xenomorph in her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was the night that Thor enchanted his hammer. Just to be like, I want
no matter
you to,
what, protect Jane Foster.
Yeah. Which is fine. It gave justification to the hammer calling to her because as she's dying of this cancer, the hammer feels like we've been seeing, it's like capes and hammers and shit are all sentient beings in the MCU.
This is actually a divergent from the comic because when Jane Foster holds the hammer, she's always Thor. It's only when she gets rid of the hammer that her condition gets worse. They opposited the situation. They're like, no, her being Thor is killing her.
Yeah.
That's not what happens in the comics. It's because if she ever transfers back to Jane, she's dying more and more and more. So they're basically saying that the hammer kind of sucks the life out of her. Yeah. A little bit, which is kind of a fine storyline because you don't want her to stick around too much.
I would have been fine with her move. It's like, spoilers especially if you're this far in, but it's like, of course they kill her off at the end, but it's like, I would have been fine with her being part of the MCU, just like being another Thor, being the mighty Thor.
I think that would kind of ruin the ending if they had kept her alive because it wouldn't have made,
yeah.
And but it's a knife in the back, kind of like, and storytelling.
We'll get to the end scene. Yeah, we'll get to that one. But
so he reveals to the guys, hey, look, they're in the nether, like basically the shadow realm. No light. Yeah. No all shadows. No color. Yes. Which I loved the transition. So they're about to show up. They hit the transition point, and the color is gone.
And they kind of have this is actually my favorite scene in the whole movie. They almost kind of frame it up like A New Hope, like when they're approaching the Death Star. So it's like all the color gets sucked away. They're kind of, acknowledging it, being like, oh shit's about to go down. And they look up ahead and he's like, that's the place we need to go. And it's kind of framed like they're in the Millennium Falcon. Then it clips to the back. You see the goats go and go and go. And yeah. And then like they get what you would feel like is about maybe like halfway there, and then all of a sudden,
yeah, because this is about the spalls of a marble.
Yes, and then the goats scream after landing. That was the first time I actually like had it's hard to control my laughter moment. Like I was
that was hilarious
over that.
That was fucking hilarious. The only part I really laughed was when Taika Waititi's character Korg was talking. Everything he said was just fucking hilarious.
Korg, it's always great.
And who's that? Is that Jodie Foster, your last girlfriend? He's like, no, it's Jane. Oh, Jodie Foster from House of the Lambs. I'm just like, really? What a fucking pull.
But yeah, so they arrive at the Shadow Realm but cannot find the kids.
Yeah, we have to see the cage, and the cage is empty.
Yes. And the whole lead up, because when you're talking about with Gore with the kids, that when they pulled out and you saw the crate moving toward the Shadow Realm, that also felt like a page straight out the comic book. Like I was looking at that just being like, wow, if they just brighten this up just a little bit, this would be awesome.
And so we see like the tent that he's living in. So they all break away, do their own thing for just a quick 2 seconds. And Jane sees Stormbreaker as the key. Yes. I mentioned that in Omnipotent City. Hey, he can't get through eternity.
He can't get through the Bifrost without it.
Yeah, he can't because he needs a key. Yep. And unbeknownst, and this is like the whole thing of the story of fate in the MCU. Stormbreaker was created by Thor himself. Yeah. At no point does anyone know Stormbreaker exists unless Thor exists. And it's mainly out of convenience that Stormbreaker exists. So fate determined that Stormbreaker eventually would be created, no matter what. Which I think is hilarious. Because like anytime they do any type of background, like Easter egg, it's like, oh, that's some fate shit. So like we're gonna see that. And like the biggest one of this was like in Age of Ultron where they go to Hawkeye's house, and what's the first thing Tony Stark says? Agent. She's an agent because he thinks it's all fucking conspiracy.
Yeah,
and it's just like, well, you're right. But no, they go. She realizes, hey, fuck, this is a trap, and he gives them the ultimatum: save Valkyrie, save Jane Foster, which is kind of a fucked up kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's the whole thing was like, where's Korg? Oh wait, he's on the bar on the ship.
Yeah,
he's still chilling on the bar.
How's it going, guys?
And we get the cool little fight scene.
Yes,
and he almost kills Valkyrie. Mm-hmm. And I thought they were actually going to kill her. Like, in the whole thing in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, you're going to have to kill Valkyrie because she's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And he shoves that fucking bolt through her because she's got the bolt, not him.
Yeah.
And
really cool editing effects where it's like the bolt was still yellow. It's like that wasn't affected by the shadow realm. And like when it was
anytime they use their weapons, it showed color.
Yes.
On all of them.
And I thought that was just such a cool little effect.
And I like that we see progressive damage on Gore. So when we first see Gore with the sword, his skin is still smooth. He's still got his face tattoos. But as he fights Thor and Valkyrie and Jane Foster throughout the story, he becomes more scarred. He becomes bloody. He starts getting that black ooze in the mouth from when he getting hit in the mouth. And
so one of the other things I found out is through deleted scenes, like they filmed it. And it was edited in, so we'll probably see it as deleted scenes maybe at some point, but it's apparently in test audiences that didn't fly well. The reason he's got those scars on his head specifically was those were tattoo markings for his god. There's a whole scene of Christian Bale like scrubbing his forehead to get the tattoos off, like kind of like family friendly, like shadowy,
just cutting them off.
Perspective angled, mutilation just to like get that god off of him. So that was one of those weird little things where it's like all of a sudden he shows up with all these scars and you're just like, fuck, what happened? And it's just like, well, it's because he took a fucking cheese grater to his head a few scenes prior and they cut it out.
And some of the like visual effects on this are very well done, especially with the color palette, the color changes and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And so I love how Jane Foster, the first thing she does, it's a trap, and grabs Stormbreaker and throws that motherfucker into space.
Yeah.
And he's like, why did you throw my fucking weapon? She's like, it's a trap. We're all fucked. We need to, boot and rally. Mm-hmm. And it goes terribly wrong.
Absolutely. So
the last thing Thor's able to do is grab Stormbreaker right when Christian Bale grabs it, and he's about to cut him down. And we're out of here.
Yeah.
But Stormbreaker is gone.
Yep, he winds Bale is still holding on just a little too hard. Gore still had it. It's like Thor still got sent through his portal and everything, but Stormbreaker was still left behind.
Yep.
So, and at that point, that's when he realizes just how bad off Jane is.
Yeah, because Valkyrie's laying there with an open wound in the chest. She turned back into Jane Foster. Mm-hmm. She's done. I guess the last of it.
Like you just see the bags under her eyes, everything. It's like it sucked her dry.
And I like even Asgard, like they're in the hospital, they're just like, look, this is bad. And he goes in, he's like, he does the whole like, looks at that vending machine and just breaks that motherfucker. And you hear it in the background, which is another part of the slapstick comedy of it. He's like, oh, hey, somebody left a fridge full of food open.
Well, yeah, he said someone made a fridge without a door, without a handle.
Yeah.
Weird. And honestly, one of the few moments they actually kind of chilled out with the jokes. Like, that was the last joke for a minute. Mm-hmm. And they actually had a nice heart-to-heart between him and Jane.
And that's something Jane didn't want.
No,
that was actually a very serious moment that she didn't want to happen. Because she's like, and she says it very clearly. She's like, when she meets Kat Dennings, she's like, look, people act weird when you tell them you have cancer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. And finding out the hard way, kind of like, he knows she's sick, but he doesn't realize how bad it is because he's only seen her as Thor, the other Thor. And it's a very heart-to-heart moment, but then they go back to the joke of him meeting Valkyrie, who's healing very quickly, by the way, for someone who's been stabbed in the chest by a lightning bolt.
Hey.
And she's like, oh, I can't go because, I'm fucking took one to the fucking dome. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hurting, motherfucker.
I'm good.
I'm not busting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
God damn it.
This is not lit. Not fire. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the kids say.
I'm dipping.
Dip, no cap, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, no cap.
Whatever the fuck that means. Now I'm just the old man. What are these fucking kids?
Yeah, I don't understand the no cap.
I think it's like a lie or truth or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be it's no cap, no lie, but I don't know why cap means lie.
I don't know.
Whatever.
So anyway, back to actual things that matter.
Yeah,
A movie.
a good one at that.
So he grabs the lightning bolt, and he's actually able to use the lightning bolt to teleport, which I thought was cool. Which is like that's something else that the lightning bolt can do. Mm-hmm. And he goes to basically exactly where Axel tells him to go, which is the Temple of Eternity, which I love the layout of this. So you got the head of the tribunal, the head of the Beyonder, a celestial, all this other shit.
Very well done.
And at the beginning, at the top tip of the thing is a statue of eternity, which they did a very good comic book representation of.
Yes,
especially later on in the movie. But the half golden face, the pure darkness of it looks fantastic. And you could tell other people have been there and died. And you see like the Asgard temple runes and stuff like that.
The runes, yeah.
And so we see that he's struggling with Stormbreaker.
Because Stormbreaker's all upset because they've had a little side plot this whole time of Stormbreaker being jealous that
he's talking
Mjolnir's around.
to a hammer, and then Jane picks it up and walks away, and Stormbreaker kind of floats in.
Slowly directs the thing.
Not like Black Noir doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? What? He's an old friend. It's like a dog. You don't get mad when you pet another dog. So he's actually struggling to turn Stormbreaker in. So he finally gets it. And we get a flash over to Asgard, Jane realizing that Thor shows up first. Yeah. And he's struggling to fight this motherfucker with a lightning bolt. Mm-hmm. And he breaks the lightning bolt. He's using two pieces. And he's actually holding his own for a minute. Yeah. Until he puts him down. Jane shows up with the hammer. And before Jane shows up, yes. I love Thor looking those kids in the face. He's like, listen, you're probably going to die. Like, he's very cool about this. Oh, yeah. Very nonchalant. But you're Asgardians, goddammit. And the one kid's like, I'm not Asgardian, I'm Fallacian or something like that. Yeah, it's like, he's one of the gold people from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just like, how the fuck does all these kids show up? He's like, I'm a werewolf. And it's like, oh, God. He's like, you know what? All of you are super. Everyone grab a weapon. Yes,
I love this bit so much. He's like, everyone grab a weapon.
And he looks at, he listens, he like speaks to the lightning bolt. Yes. Which endows them with the power. He's like, endow these children, if they are brave enough, with the power of Thor. Temporarily. And I'm just like, you could do that?
How useful that would have been so many other times.
Avengers 1, Avengers 2, Endgame. Could you imagine Thor just, hey, speaking to a full Mjolnir and a Stormbreaker, grant Ant-Man, Steve Rogers, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Wakandans, all the power of Thor, and Thanos been like, boom, and he kills himself because he's like, I can't handle that shit.
I will say, out of all the angry nerd videos, that was the one point I kind of agreed with them on. I was like,
it was fun because it's temporary. Yes. And they're not being endowed with the powers of Thor, the power of the lightning bolt. Yes. And like, I like how it branched out in like a cinematic point of like a tree of life.
Yes.
And like,
very symbolic.
It's very cool. And so the kids
My favorite was the little girl with the bunny. Yeah. Like shooting the lasers. It reminded me of the boys with the baby.
Yeah. And so they're holding their own against the shadow creatures. Jane Foster shows up. And
you just see the heartbreak in Thor's eyes.
Oh, it's like, this is it. This is how unless she stays this way or unless I make a wish or something like that. And you're thinking like, man, he might be able to make a wish because he's made it to eternity too. And they know for the fact they have to break the sword. Yeah. Now, this is one of the coolest scenes of taking a weapon from someone. Mm-hmm. So they shatter the sword, but he's able to put the sword back together a little bit. Jane Foster does the best fucking move. She pulls the sword back with the pieces of Thor's hammer into
she throws the hammer pieces wrap around the sword and yank it back.
Yeah, yanking all the pieces together. And now you have this jagged monstrosity of a hammer. Yeah. And he looks and he's like, motherfucker, because Thor's down for a minute. And she slams it on the ground, destroying the sword permanently. And all the shadow creatures pretty much just go. Yep. But it's too late. He made it through the portal. Yep. And I like how Thor's like struggling to get Stormbreaker out of there. Mm-hmm. And he finally gets it out, but it's too late. The portal's already open. So the flash of light, he makes it through, and all you got is Gore, Jane Foster, and Thor. Yep. That's it. And
they're kind of in. It reminded me of the Endgame and Infinity War scene where they wake up after getting the Soul Stone, and they're kind of in that just
they're like
shallow body of water.
Yeah,
it was like that, but the bright version.
Yeah, they're in limbo.
Yeah,
a version of limbo. Mm-hmm. And I still hate that Infinity War never did the whole Tony Stark just chilling with Black Widow in that area the whole time. How's it going? What happened? Fucking won. Of course, you know what happened. I'm here. I won. I kicked ass all by myself. And it's just like, get fucked. Even in death, you're a dick. I hate you 3000.
You 3000.
But anyway, so it's very symbolic. It's a choice he has to make. So now it's, hey, do I stop Gore? Do I save Jane? And he makes a very, it's a selfish choice, but it's not in a bad way. He's like, I don't care, Gore. You won.
Yeah.
Get fucked.
Whoop-de-doo. Yeah. Look at you.
And he's like, and wish whatever you want to. Mm-hmm. I got something to do. And that's the turn of Gore. In the comics, it takes old Thor and young Thor to get rid of Gore and change his position in life. This was just Thor, which I thought was cool.
But he's looking at their sea and he's like just cradling Jane in his arms. And he's like, why are you doing this?
It's a view of a god that he hasn't seen. Mm-hmm. All the other gods are omnipotent, are fucking selfish, are this arrogant. He's not anymore.
Yeah.
If this was Gore Thor 1, yeah, terrible. Killed that motherfucker. But he changes his mind and he wishes for that one thing. That
love.
We did, yeah, love.
And one thing we didn't mention, when he goes through the portal and they're in that shallow water, we see eternity.
Yeah, the star eternity.
The coolest comic book to screen visual I have ever seen. This awesome 2D flat space, but when you move, the space behind it is 3D, but the object itself was very one-dimensional, very flat.
Its body is basically a view of space and time, like in everything.
No, I saw that. It was like I was just immediately glued. I was like, oh, that looks so awesome.
Yeah, very comic book representative. It's very rare to get that.
But he says, but Thor even mentions to him, he goes, you could wish for your daughter back. And he's like, I'm dying. You know, because apparently the Necrosword had the same effects as the hammer did. It was draining them.
Yeah, it's a one-purpose item.
Yeah.
So once you kill that, you kill him.
And Thor was just like, no, she won't be alone.
Well, Jane says that.
Oh, yeah.
Jane says, look, he's like, but she'll be alone. And Jane's like, no, look, whatever you may think, she'll never be alone or unloved. And I thought that was cool. They brought the little girl back. And he's holding his wife, basically. He's holding his little girl. And it's basically two guys reconciling over, hey, you know, we've lost everything.
Yep.
And like a very, kind of a sense of, I'm sorry they had to go this way, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. And then we get the epilogue, which is like a National Lampoon's epilogue. It's just
because Jane dies on, Gore dies on, and the visual of the daughter coming back for a second as the mini eternity, because you saw like the two stars in her eyes,
the shadow,
as she slowly formed into the child that we saw at the very beginning of the movie,
and all the kids get sent back as like a last resort. Because he gives the hammer to Axel, the Stormbreaker to Axel, and they go back to Asgard. There's a giant statue of Jane Foster already built as the Lady Thor, which I thought was cool.
Yes. Mighty Thor.
Mighty Thor. Lady Thor. Thor. So we get the epilogue of Korg telling the story of the giant space Vikings, and you find out that all of Korg's people are male, and they have a ritual where they do stand and fall a volcano and create
hold hands.
And he meets Dwayne.
Yes,
that's all. Dwayne the Rock. That's what it was. That's what I was like. I left the theater. I'm just like, why is he called Dwayne? Oh, he's a rock. It's Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and he had the mustache, the old fucking handlebar mustache.
Yes,
and I'm just like, that's fucking hilarious. And he's going into the story of, you know, the Valkyries teaching the kids self-defense.
Yep.
Axel's, you know, training with Sif. And that's the only problem I had was Sif didn't get like a new arm.
Ah, yeah.
Which kind of sucks. I'm just like, give her a fucking robot arm or something. That would have been cool.
There's room for it.
Yeah,
there's time.
But she's, you know, going toe to toe with him, you know, show him how his dad fought, you know.
Yes. And honestly, that's slowly become a thing. Like when I was younger, so many things just did not affect me with emotional stuff. Lately, anytime seeing a kid picking up something that they've learned from their parent because they've been gone on or something, that hits me so hard. So like seeing Axel like fighting like his dad, I was just like, God damn it, Axel. It's that same thing as like that fucking video that makes its round on Facebook about every other year, and it's like, God damn it, stop it. And it's that kid that's at the guitar shop picking up the guitar that his dad had just paid off and was like waiting for his birthday, but his dad had like died in a car wreck a week before. And I'm just like, why is this video on here? This is wrecking me. So it's like, so that's, I've gotten to that age where stupid bullshit like that Axel scene gets to me.
Empathy. It's a mean bitch. That's why I got rid of it. That's why I got rid of it.
I need to work in a call center again. Get rid of some of this empathy.
Oh, God. The hate. Let the hate flow through, bro. But, so Thor returns and Korg does a great epilogue. We see Thor flipping pancakes, or what he calls flip cakes.
Yes, flip cakes.
And
which are kind of a better name for
I guess. Anyway, we see the girl, and he's like, hey, I need you to get your boots on. You know, and you think, hey, he's taking her to school. You know, he's raising her. And
he's just like, no, you're not wearing that today. You're going to get cold. This, that, and the
and
other.
he's like, fine, wear those. I don't care. Your feet are going to hurt like a motherfucker. Like,
don't come crying to me when your feet hurt.
And I like her. She's like, I don't like flip cakes. He's like, how do you know? He's like, these are fucking delicious. He's like, I don't like them. He's like, you've never had them.
She's like, I hate you, devil spawn.
Yeah.
Like shoots her laser beam.
Oh God, that was fucking, I was just like, and it's the purple ones. Too.
Yes.
And he's like, boom, with the pan. He's like, look, you ruined another one. You fucking little asshole.
Yes.
It's a very like dad and daughter kind of banter back and forth. And then he gets her boots on, and you're like, okay, he's probably taking her to like some school on Asgard and stuff like that. And he's got the hammer back, and he looks at the hammer. She's drawn on it, and it's like a little face. And he's like, oh, that's permanent. That's not coming off. Fine, whatever.
Yeah. It's better that way.
So he's got his hammer, and it opens the door, and he's like, and you're thinking like he's telling her how to treat people in school. Mm-hmm. He's like, if you see someone smaller getting picked on, you stand up for them, help them out. Don't let bullies win. Blah blah blah. Which is a cool fucking stance anyway.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh no, they're going on a goddamn battlefield of a village that's being ransacked, and
hands her Stormbreaker.
Yes, this giant log, and she's able to lift, by the way.
Yes.
And he's like, remember what I said? Mm-hmm. And they fucking, and he's like, and it's the story of love and thunder. And it fit perfectly. I did not see that coming.
I didn't either.
You know, and it fits perfectly. And they just go into it. And at the end it says, Thor will return, blah, blah, blah. And we get to the end credits scene.
Yes.
So it's not very good compared to the rest of them, but it is cool. It expands the universe of Zeus. Like, these people don't worship a city anymore.
Yeah, you find out Zeus actually isn't dead.
Yes, because it takes more than a bolt to kill a god.
Yep. And a drop to the head.
And he asks Hercules, the strongest of his sons, to go back to Thor, but he also gives him a kind of a smaller task of making people fear the gods again, which I think will set up great in phase 4 or phase 5 or whatever the fuck, because gods exist now.
Yeah.
In the MCU, we saw them attacking Egypt. We saw the Eternals create a fucking Eternal.
Yeah.
In the goddamn crack of earth. And now, you know, if Hercules shows up, you know, who probably could go toe-to-toe with Thor, strength-wise, you know, or the Hulk even. Mm-hmm. So I think that really sets it up for like a mimic version of Horror versus the Thing or something like that.
Let's see, that was, out of the 2 end credits, that was the one where I was just like...
That is the lesser.
Yeah, that was definitely a lesser one, mainly because even though he was like, you know... I need you to make people fear the gods again, Hercules. Yeah. When he came out of the shadows, I was like,
well, that's nerd. That's what he looks like, though. He looks like a fucking wrestler.
He did. I was like, okay.
They could have done like a Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah, Dad. Cream of the crop.
But I liked the second end credit scene a lot more. Maybe not the implication, but what it gave to the universe, which is you see Jane Foster in the afterlife.
In Valhalla.
And
Heimdall shows
Heimdall meets her,
was good.
And I was just like, yes, Heimdall.
And that's the one. That's the one that needed to meet her.
Yes,
because he's like, hey, thanks for taking care of my son. Mm-hmm. And that means she could come back, because in mythology, which if they go down that path, the people that live in Valhalla are also the Valkyries. Well, whatever's left of them, the Valkyries live in Valhalla.
Well, the implication I liked about it is everyone that's died in Thor's life has been sent to Valhalla.
If they died in battle.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Odin is in Valhalla.
Odin didn't really die in battle. He sacrifices himself at the end.
Yeah,
Hela,
but
Hela would be.
Ooh.
So with the Warriors 3.
But wouldn't what did Odin say right before Hela showed up on that cliffside? He said something about being like crossing over to Valhalla now or something like that.
He could be. He's the fucking head of the Norse mythology.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Maybe that's like one of those fucking flip through the pages loopholes.
Yeah, so Hela would be there. Carl Urban would be there with his M16s.
So it's like, that would be really interesting.
I got things from Texas.
Yes. So it would be really interesting to see some of those characters come back in a future story. And that's what made me more excited for it. On the flip side, though, in reality, do you think Jane deserves to be in Valhalla?
She died in battle as a god. As a Norse god.
But she didn't die in battle. She died after the battle was over, like Thor said.
Because Thor is wrong.
She did not die in the heat of battle. She died during the redemption arc.
Technically, there'd be a lot of characters in Valhalla if Thor willed it to be as an ally,
Yeah.
So Loki would be there.
Oh, shit. Loki definitely died.
If Heimdall's there, Loki's there.
Fuck.
He might be in the TVA, but dead Loki's there. Which probably carries some weird paradox situation.
Yeah. Well, no, Loki in the series is Avengers Loki.
Yeah.
So no, that doesn't. The only paradox would be if that Loki goes back to Avengers time period, Avengers 1 time period.
Yeah, so like the Warriors 3 would be there because Hela killed him in battle.
Yep.
Heimdall's there. Freya's probably there because she got stabbed to death. Protecting Thor. Or protecting Jane Foster.
So I wonder if there could be like a Valhalla Ascends storyline.
That'd be cool, because that actually works well with when Marvel acquired what was it, Spawn? Because Spawn, one of the characters in Spawn is Angelica, which is a Valkyrie from Valhalla that he has to fight later on.
Yeah,
and they say angel, which is basically their version of heaven is our version of heaven.
And so, all in all, we've had really nothing but praise about this movie, kind of going and breaking it down. But the thing is like, for me, the problems lie in the little things. Like, for instance...
Well, those little things, to me, that seem like it's a demographic. They changed... This is going back to what I said about changing the demographic of a movie. Like Winter Soldier is an espionage movie. This is a family-friendly kids movie.
Absolutely.
Like a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
And that's what they changed it for.
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok is a little bit more adult. Because
the main thing I was going to bring up is like, I feel like we didn't skip over any story beats. We focused on the main plot points, maybe even a little bit more than we do on some of the review episodes of other series. And we're at like an hour, 15 minutes. So it's like we went through the whole movie in great detail, all of the plot points, all the little moments, even kind of referenced back some of the jokes and went off on tangents. If we cut it down as if we were doing a legit review under a time frame, we would have been done with that in an hour.
Yeah.
So I feel like my main gripe kind of comes from so much happens in such a short span of time. It felt like there were some moments that the speed really lent itself, like the first 10-15 minutes of the movie, all perfectly paced in my opinion. And then at that point you kind of expect it at least to slow down in cutaways and movement a little bit. It just doesn't, though. It's like you're just on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
I would have liked, because we did like skip over some stuff like the Asgardian play.
Yeah,
which is fucking hilarious. I would have loved it if Hela had came out. It's actually the actress Kate Kate Blanchett, and she's just like, "What up?" Because that's what they did in Thor Ragnarok. I don't know if you remember that. They did the theater version of it.
Yeah, that was a callback to that one again, and it was also funny during that.
And Matt Damon's an asshole at Asgard.
Yeah, during that board meeting thing, he was like, "What they need now is entertainment. Do I have your permission to go ahead and start adapting this into our next
like,
play?"
"I'll stab you to death."
He's like, "I will take that as a yes. They need entertainment."
And I would love that. That would have been part of the epilogue of them just trying to redo that.
Oh my God, yes, that's what one of that end credit scene should have been.
Just like Valkyrie like twiddling a knife while they're doing it. Just like
it'd be a callback to the Hawkeye thing, because it's like we waited all series long for some sort of end credit scene. We finally get an end credit scene. And it's literally the "I Can Do This All Day" song from the musical front to back.
I had somebody explain to me one time, like, why does Ant-Man show up in that?
Oh, yeah.
And it's because when they time traveled, Ant-Man actually is there.
Yep.
And I'm just like, oh my God, that's some like third eye conspiracy shit, man. It works out. Like,
where probably only a couple people saw.
And they're like, hey, that's Ant-Man.
And they're like, no, he wasn't there. Yeah, he was. I saw him.
And they're all time traveled at the same time.
Yep.
About killed Iron Man. But dun, dun, dun. But like I kind of wanted some more Easter eggs about the whole universe.
Yeah.
Instead of like, hey, what is everybody else doing in like an end credit scene? You know, could we get like an end credit of, you know, instead of Hercules, or maybe another more expanded one of, instead of Hercules, maybe Adam Warlock, maybe someone a little bit bigger, which I know they're probably saving for a lot of, because the end of Miss Marvel.
Adam's supposed to show up in Guardians 3.
Yeah, so like the Miss Marvel one was, she has this bracelet, like in Miss Marvel, she has a bracelet. And the end credit scene is, it starts glowing, she disappears through a fucking door that explodes. And then Captain Marvel shows up and realizes, where the fuck am I? And it turns out the bracelet can switch places with people, which is a cool little Easter egg, which is also dangerous because where the fuck was Miss Marvel?
Yeah.
She was out in space somewhere. So now that little girl is out in space somewhere who was fighting like regular fucking people on Earth. And now she's probably part of Secret Wars now. Fighting with Nick Fury in the fucking battlefield.
I will say, one thing they've been really good at with Phase 4 that I think is going to pay off really good later on, it kind of works as a positive to your negative. They've not had a lot of crossover.
No, because it's expanded too fast.
Exactly, but I think that's done purposely and very well. So far, the only character that's really kind of crossed over has been Doctor Strange, because he showed up in Spider-Man, and that was kind of connected to WandaVision a little bit, and then Doctor Strange's movie was very much connected to WandaVision. So that's been the only character that's kind of bridged the gap between a few things. Everything else is very much self-contained, and even at the end of Doctor Strange, it wasn't directing him toward the characters we've seen already, sending him on a brand new mission of people we haven't seen. So I think it's going to be really effective when one day we see Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, you know, and all these people, and like the new Hawkeye, you know, all these people kind of all of a sudden are now sharing screen time. No. I think it's going to be a really good payoff.
A really cool thing is, you know, especially watching those other two movies that you didn't see, was trying to figure out where the timeline is. So what time period does Eternals happen? Is it post Moon Knight? Because Moon Knight's a very pivotal part of this story. At the end of Shang-Chi, we see Bruce Banner, but it's Bruce Banner with a broken arm.
Yeah.
So he hasn't gone back to the Hulk yet. We see previews of She-Hulk. He's back at Science Hulk.
But he's still got the sling on.
Yeah, but you know, he's got a thing on his arm.
Yeah.
But he's the Hulk.
Yep.
So at some point, he's able to transition back and forth. Maybe he gets stuck sometimes. So I'm really at a loss on unless someone makes a timeline, which will happen, because once the phase is over, they'll be like, oh, phase 5, phase 6.
Yeah,
we got space. You know, we're gonna do the whole space thing.
Space. Now, do you feel like maybe they're kind of pushing these out a little too fast and too often? Not in a fatigue way, like what Cap was talking about, but like in a oversaturated and not paying enough attention to each property just to get out a mass quantity of them.
No, because this paid attention to the story very well for 2 hours.
Yeah.
The shows are doing fantastic. You know, you have a lot more time to go to, like, especially Hawkeye. You know, we had a lot of stuff going on for, like, ground pounders, you know, who aren't really superheroes. You know, we've introduced 2 new characters to the MCU, you know, and now Netflix no longer has property rights over Punisher, Daredevil, Jessica Jones. So, like, that's all going to fucking Disney Plus.
Yeah.
What they do with
Jodie Foster.
Yeah, Jodie Foster. Whatever the fuck they do with them is great. You know, we could see another show like She-Hulk, maybe a cameo for Luke Cage. Tell me that wouldn't have been a cool little cameo. Hey,
That would be.
who's the only person She-Hulk can fuck and not kill? And not kill.
Hey, it is supposed to be kind of like a rom-com type show. So.
It's going to be fucking hilarious. So, because they're going to do, what's her name? Amazonia or whatever? Titana. That's who they're going. That's who was the person. The Titana is another character.
Got it.
She's like a woman who turns like 50 feet tall or some shit. But they're going to do a lot of exposition, I think, in these episodes. And honestly, man, keep them, churn them out.
And also, well, do you think that's also a small negative where it's like, unless you're keeping up with all the Disney Plus shows and stuff, it's going to be hard for the regular movie-going audience to really follow along the story. I mean, Doctor Strange already kind of showed a little bit of that.
I think enough, like on a percentage point, enough people who are fans of Marvel / Star Wars already have Disney Plus, already know what's going on, are always tuning in every week. Hey, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? It's like the Boba Fett or no, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Hey, the Force, you know, you can use to heal people. Turn of Skywalker or Rise of Skywalker. Hey, that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think if they time it right, it's great. It's creating the movie theater industry back. It's bringing it back hard.
Well, at least for Disney.
At least for Disney, but that's a start.
Yeah.
Like, the only non-Disney movie I want to see next is Bullet Train, just because it's
that
looks
does
fucking
look
badass.
Good. Yeah, it's with the Chinese or Japanese cover.
Bullet Train.
Yeah, the Japanese cover of Staying Alive, though.
Oh God, that was just like ha ha ha.
Sigma-da.
Yeah,
Whatever they're saying.
and like the fight scenes are cool, and like the characters they have in that movie look amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for that to come out. I was kind of hoping it was coming out this weekend, but nothing's coming out this weekend.
No, nothing good at least.
But like, you know, it's good to have that experience back.
Yeah.
You know, I went by myself to the movie theater. It was nice to actually just sit there and enjoy a movie like a movie.
Yeah.
And I recommend that people do that. Go to the movie by yourself. It's nice. Like, it's nice. Take someone with you if you want to, but like sometimes it's good to take yourself out.
Absolutely. And I guess on that note, taking yourself out, showing yourself a little self-love in this world of thunder, it's a good place to kind of put a bow on this. So for this episode of the Couch Potatoes, I've been Alex and Chris. Do you have any sort of final thoughts on Thor, Love, and Thunder?
At some point in the movie, I would have loved to them to explain how Korg got his body back and how he met Dwayne. Dwayne the Rock Korg. And their kid. Because now he has a kid.
Yes, he's got a kid.
And a weird version of them having kids and procreation is them holding hands in front of a volcano for 5 years.
Yes.
And that's how Korg's go.